Hi guys, it's Marenghi here. I hope you're doing very well. So today I would like to talk to you about why I am no longer vegan. So, I was fully vegan for about 2 years, starting from the age of 25, and I'm now 32. Up until the age of 25 I'd ate meat literally every day, probably more than once a day. Just the way the family ate and everyone, almost everyone we knew ate, and never gave it a second thought really. And then one day I was in Subway, the sandwich shop, and I was looking at the little discs of pepperoni, and the top ones in particular were particularly inflected upwards, if that's the word I want, and sort of white and crusty, but you know what I mean, instead of being flat discs, they were coming up a bit at the side like a bowl. And I suddenly had this epiphany, might be too grandiose, but I had this thought: how did that get from being a living sentient creature like myself to that? You know, it seemed like the ultimate trail of dignity and the ultimate in unnature or something, unnaturalness. Anyway, so I was shaken by this. I had the sandwich anyway, but went home and then watched some documentaries I would sort of regret watching, even though it might have been necessary. You know, when you see abattoir footage and the nutrition thing is completely up in the air. But yeah, you see the footage of. Better to be left to the imagination than described, let's say. I'm sure you know what I mean. Anyway, and then I suddenly had this like fervent conversion into this mindset of oh my god, I've been complicit in this evil all my life, which I still think is true really. Everyone I know has been doing this. No one's told me otherwise. We've all been brainwashed. There's carefully constructed concentration camps essentially all over the country, where obviously it attracts sadists or turns people into sadists. There's actually a Guardian article about why this guy's against meat for humanitarian reasons, because someone attacked him in the street and then apologised, saying, "Sorry, I used to work in an abattoir and it did this to us." And yes. Anyway, and it was like the blinders had been taken off, and I found it very difficult to transition immediately into vegan. I did like a few weeks on, a few weeks off, a few weeks on, a few weeks off, doing it very badly, just eating loads of carbohydrates and processed foods, and weighing myself down. I'll get to carbohydrates in a bit, but yeah, it was basically purely ethical reasons. I was almost traumatized by letting in the horrificness of it all. I think we often don't let things in for that reason, like the full scale of horror of a certain situation. We stay in denial about it just for our own comfort and sanity, maybe. Anyway, so after a few months I became completely vegan, and I became the stereotypical annoying as hell crusader, you know, on Facebook and stuff, and throwing out words like, you know, what I was saying was true, I think, but I put it in such a didactic, polemic, preachy way, because I was so angry, I'd say, and outraged that I'd been lied to about all this, and that no one else seemed to realise it who I knew, and that whenever you brought it up, no matter how tactfully, even though I didn't do it that well, but in person, say I could do it tactfully, people would just reject it out of hand and do not want to hear it. You know, it's like challenging someone's religious beliefs who's very religious. They're not into it. Especially with food, because you are what you eat, and if you've got kids and someone's challenging you, you're implying that they've been poisoning themselves and they're complicit in murder, and they're doing the same to their kids, and they are made of those things. So yes, I was incredibly annoying and started a load of debates on Facebook and stuff. I think it became a conversation starter. I think this was just before like the whole vegan thing was in vogue in England anyway. But yeah, I do see people post the sort of post that I used to post, and I do cringe in regret. Anyway, so I launched myself fully into it. I going to vegan cafes or vegan cookbooks, started off feeling great. Who knows if it was the placebo effect or the change in diet, but yeah, I was just eating loads of fruit and vegetables, obviously, carbohydrates, and that was about it. And you sort of get used to it, and I felt like it was making me feel less clogged up and more buoyant, with more energy and more clear-headed and clear thinking, and could have been a placebo. But yes, I definitely did get that effect. And my partner at the time had been vegan since the age of about 16, after they'd given a talk in school about abattoirs or something. So we were kind of crusading together, and we became that annoying couple where everyone doesn't make accommodations for, or this is what I got sick of. One of the things I got sick of after a while is you go to a pub and you've got like chips and salad, and you end up being that person, like, can I please, can the chef do this without this, or can he add a bit of this, or it's like everywhere. It's just, does this have this in it? And you find out these, shocking amount of things that aren't vegan, like wine and Thai curry paste, and all the rest of it. So I thought it was going quite well, but then I started to lose a lot of weight. I admit I probably did it quite badly. I now don't eat carbohydrates at all, really, but I was just stuffing myself full of carbohydrates and vegetables and fruit, and no protein really, and not doing much muscle building exercises. And I'm hypermobile, double jointed, and I started to lose all this weight, which was disturbing people around me, understandably, when I look back at the pictures now. As well as doing that, it was making my dislocation points more vulnerable and stuff like that. Thankfully, nothing's dislocated in quite a few months, because I like trying to do upper body workouts now quite a lot. And needless to say, I don't think I convinced anyone around me at all to become vegan. I became a bit of a laughingstock, probably because of the way I did it, but also just because of the way it was, like in films, say, the vegan or the vegetarian one would always be the sort of emaciated, wacky hippie who believed in magic crystals and new age bullshit, and was sort of like a joke figure. So there was that preconception people have in culture, in England anyway, probably elsewhere too. In some places it's completely unheard of, like my ex-girlfriend's parents were Lithuanian, and they were not, they'd never even heard of it. So, what changed? So I'm doing this for 2 years, and it does become, I can see why people call it a cult, because it's like, well, it's us and the murderers and the complicit in murderers, who just won't break through the membrane into enlightenment and stop having all these animals murdered. I think it's like 50 billion animals a year killed for food. And ethically, I actually wrote an article which got published a few places, including the Whole Daily Mail and Veg Paradise in LA, called The Moral Necessity of Veganism, saying whichever way you look at it. This was before I researched the health thing, but say environmentally, you don't have a leg to stand on arguing that we should use like 70% of the land to raise cattle for McDonald's and Burger King and the rest of it, and all the methane and all the rest of it, and all the corn and other foods that could be fed to people but is fed to them. Obviously, the ethical side of it, the way they're treated. Again, I'm sure you fill in the blanks yourself there. But health-wise, I've seen. So this was after I stopped being vegan, but you see a very well-respected, very well-qualified doctor talk about why you should be vegan and all the reasons for it, and why they're vegan and why it's been great for them and everyone should be vegan. And then you can click on another video on YouTube and you've got an extremely well-qualified, convincing, charming doctor who looks quite healthy, who only eats meat, saying carnivore diet's the way, all the stuff you've heard about veganism is a myth, and get everything you need from meat. What are you to do? Nutrition really is the question mark. As Sam Harris put it, like, we've taken machines that used to be the size of rooms and made them this big, but we still can't figure out what we should be eating. Anyway, so I went to the doctor once and told him I was vegan. The doctor I respected most out of all the ones I've ever seen, and he was saying because I was hypermobile, double jointed, where but basically your joints don't have enough support, and like I say, you dislocate a lot, and you go. I won't show you because you'll go, but sort of super bendy everywhere, and you need more musculature. You need more skeletal muscular support in your body. He was saying and broke down why animal protein is better than plant source protein for doing that, which shook my conviction quite a lot, and I just naturally started eating fish occasionally now and then. In retrospect, my body was probably just craving the protein and fat and omega-3 and all that. Although I was taking some supplements, but you see footage of all kinds of shit been put into a big mixing machine, and out come these supplements. So yeah, I don't really trust them either. So I was in a bit of a conundrum because the conviction was slipping away from me after 2 years of this, and being, like I say, a crusader. Like, I'm quite strident at the most mild of times, and I was on it, man. I was drove everyone nuts, probably. Even though I think I was right, you know, like ethically, no one's got a leg to stand on arguing for this shit. Environmentally, the same. Well, on the ethics side, say all the crops that are cut down for us to eat, all the vegan diet, the amount, the thousands of like field creatures that get slaughtered in that process, you know, like voles and rabbits and badgers and foxes and the rest of it. Vegans don't really seem to acknowledge any of that, or the fact. I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but you know that book, The Secret Life of Trees, like the plants send each other messages and are sentient. If you're taking enough psychedelics, you know what I mean. But like Aldous Huxley wrote about this in his essays about trees when they were chopped down and replanted somewhere would rarely survive, but when they were anaesthetized, they had a much better chance of survival. And this guy had invented like a very fine, very sensitive version of the barometer to measure plant health. And they find like the pulse in the membrane and stuff, and you give it a bit of caffeine, it increases. Give it a sedative, it decreases. Give it a toxin, and it essentially has a heart attack. So yes, all the living things we eat probably have feelings, you know. But we got, you know, but it's too anti-human to go too far down that road. What are you going to do? You're going to eat dust, and then say, well, maybe the dust is sentient too. You know, we've got to eat something. Anyway, so the conviction slipped away from me. I was a kind of closet, not carnivore, but omnivore. I was a closet omnivore. Thinking, oh God, got to tell people this after being a. I can see why it's so hard for people who've been indoctrinated into religion to. Well, it'd be hard enough to indoctrinate yourself from anything, but the shame and saying, okay, I was wrong, or my approach was wrong, I should say. I was actually full of shit. And then it could have been the placebo again, but yeah, eating fish occasionally and then gradually introducing chicken sometimes, I was feeling a lot better. Then I actually, in my sort of, when the depersonalization symptoms kicked in about 3 years ago, and I 2 months of sort of uninterrupted wallowing depression, I was in KFC all the time. Like I was probably in self-destruct mode without really realizing it. But yeah, I went from from home cook. You know, I got this book, 1,000 Vegan Recipes, and vegan Indian food and all this stuff. Spending ages cooking, getting all the spices just right, to being sat in KFC, just miserable, just munching this down, not giving a fuck at all. Now I've managed to find a happy middle ground, I think, and I've heard from so many places now that the Paleolithic diet is the way to go. So that's meat, vegetables, no grain really or carbohydrates, no bread, no pasta, no rice, because that just turns into sugar in your body, and we all know what sugar does. Pure, White and Deadly, as that book that I think that got banned in the 50s explains. Diabetes, cancer, and the rest of it. Sugar weighs you down, and you do notice the big difference that I don't think is the placebo effect when you quit carbohydrates. Anyway, yes, the Paleolithic: meat, vegetables, some fruit, nuts, some legumes, some dairy, although I hardly touch dairy. I've got a feeling that is basically poison. And that's what I'm on now. So it's been a journey for me. I know vegans will watch this and be outraged. Understandably so, I guess. People who knew me, who are omnivorous, might watch this and get a certain satisfaction that could be tinged with smugness. Just watch out for that in yourself. I hope you appreciate my honesty here. My not repentance, but coming clean, I guess. So yes, the ethical conviction never slipped away from me, and I can't justify it ethically. But I eat fish and chicken. I don't eat any other meat at all. I think I had some turkey on Christmas Day, actually. Maybe I should just end it there. I think I've explained everything. Yes, the ethical conviction slipped away from me. That was the main thing, because it came on so strong at the start. And then I started questioning the health of it. And I would highly recommend you looking into and seeing the various interviews of people who had all kinds of health problems, who went to a paleo diet, which I explained, and got a lot better. So that is why I stopped being vegan. I hope you enjoyed me embarrassing myself and burying my soul. Links to the music below. Have a good day, guys. See you later. Bye.